Hi, this is Alison Durant coming to you from my studio from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And in front of me, I have my art poetry deck, and I'm just going to give it a little shuffle and pull a card at random just to start the video. And I really love this piece of art that I had painted. This was a watercolor piece, and I was really thinking about my art poetry style, but also kind of like a garden in the sky. This reminds me of a tree with a whole bunch of different mark making elements on it. And this says, allow for abundance and be open to receive. And I don't know if any of you make vision boards or use boards on social media, for example, Pinterest, and, keep boards of things that inspire you, whether it be art or, recipes or gardening. And I think the more we can kind of visualize abundance in our life and what we want to kind of come into our life, it's quite amazing how there's some energy that almost works in our favor that way. I used to do vision boards on a yearly basis, and I've kind of gotten out of that rhythm, but I would definitely like to do that again soon. I think they're just such a wonderful way of pulling together things that, may have been inspiring you, and it's really neat to see them all in one place. And, it speaks, a vision board gets to the point when you're adding to it, it becomes your authentic voice, what you love, kind of speaking through inspiration that you have found in your surroundings. So allow for abundance and be open to receive it. And I am just going to start our video by doing a little bit of swatching with my Canadian company watercolor set by Beam Paints. And so some of you had asked, if you're looking at an affordable watercolor set and you like Beam paints, you've seen me do the swatch. So this, I'm just gonna just zoom you out a little bit. And I think that's probably good for what I'm gonna be going over right now. Right now you're looking at a wood palette, just a really, really thin wood palette that I had purchased here in Canada at a store called Home Sense. It's a liquidation type store, and this brand of palette was called Montmartre. And it was just a very, very affordable wooden palette. And I had glued watercolor paper to the palette. And then I did my swatching of these wonderful, wonderful paints from, again, the Canadian company Beam Paints. They're Indigenous handmade watercolor in plastic-free packaging. This one here is a travel set, and some of you had written to me, and I know somebody was in Australia, and they are an investment, but they are so wonderful. So I thought what I would do when I was asked about what my favorite colors are, I had a hard time answering that question. And I think I'm going to try and guide you, if you are thinking about investing in these paints, on what maybe some more affordable options would be. These are just really, really cool. They are watercolor, and they're quite generous with the amount of watercolor on these little cards. And this would be wonderful if you're traveling and you just want to slip it into your suitcase or your travel bag, that you take with you kind of through the airports or on the airplane. And there's just so much paint in here. So what a wonderful way to kind of take the watercolor with you when traveling. This has such great colors on it, and from these colors you can make, of course, more of your own colors. And so the primary colors are the red, yellow, and the blue, and they also have different shades of the red and different shades of the blue. So that just shows this was so well thought out, because you can really go far with the primary colors and the mixing. you know, the possibilities are endless when you have this many paints to choose from. I had also, these little postcards came with my set, and I love painting on this type of postcard. So I just wanted to show you, this might be a more affordable option than the Beam Paintstones. And it's just a wonderful gift if you know an artist and you're really not sure what to get them. It's a beautiful gift, especially if they like watercolors. And I love this company because they are non-toxic. Again, they package all of their paints plastic-free. They're on Manitoulin Island, Canada, and sort of a woman-owned business, Anung Beam. And it's a family business that she had sort of taken over from her parents. So I bought this little palette from Beam Paints, and these are some of my favorite colors that I would go to. And I just wanted to share with you, if you were to purchase the primary colors, so I'm just going to set this aside, I would recommend, my favorite primary colors in order to mix other colors would be strawberry red, fall poplar yellow, and this one is called Great Ocean. So when we're looking at the palette of all the paint stones, fall poplar yellow is closest to sort of a primary yellow when you're thinking about color theory. Color theory is so unbelievably complicated, and it's not my strong suit. I really know very little about color theory and colors and mixing, but I'm doing this video partly for myself, just to get a little bit better at, you know, purchasing more like primary colors and working with less in order to create more with mixing. So Great Ocean is this blue right here, and that's, I think, a wonderful primary blue. There's also one called Almost Night, and that's a little bit more of a bright blue, but it's still great. So my choice would be for the yellow, this fall poplar yellow, and Great Ocean, and I really love the strawberry red. So I'm gonna swatch those with you. But as sort of a backup, so this is a quick little swatch I had done of the Great Ocean strawberry red and fall poplar yellow. And I'll put these names in my description because it's a little bit hard to read my writing. I was just quickly doing this morning, getting myself set up. But this is using Almost Night, so this blue here, which is a bit brighter than Great Ocean, cherry magenta instead of the strawberry red, and then of course I stuck with the fall poplar yellow. I think that's a great one. So if you were to ask me what 3 primary colors of Beam paints would I recommend in order to get a fairly good palette, my recommendation would be first this trio here. So the strawberry red, it's beautiful. And I have that actually in this palette up here. This is going to be my color mixing palette. So the strawberry red, and then we have our yellow, which is the fall poplar yellow. So that's going to be our primary. That would be the second recommendation of the Beam Paintstone. And then Great Ocean would be the blue primary. And this is what you get when you mix them. I'm just going to spritz my palette. I'm not used to keeping my colors separate, so we'll see how I do. But the strawberry red mixed with the fall poplar yellow gives this gorgeous orange color as the secondary color. And then when you mix the when you mix the fall poplar yellow with the Great Ocean, you're gonna get this really gorgeous green. It's a really nice kind of leaf green. And what I like to do is, so those would be the three primary colors, and then the secondary colors that I got from my primary. The only one I'm missing, I see, so I did the red and the yellow to make this orange, and then I combined the yellow and blue to make the green, and then I'm going to combine the red and the blue to make this gorgeous magenta color. I'll just put it right here, and I'll just add a little bit more so it shows up a bit better for you all. Color mixing is not my strong suit. Color theory is not my strong suit, but that is a gorgeous, gorgeous color palette just from those three paint stones. Now, if you were to ask me what my favorite darker paint stone would be, it would be Orca, which is, it's such a beautiful, beautiful, it's kind of like a, I think I maybe had a bit of that magenta on my brush, but this would be a shimmery color that I'd say is one of my favorites to use. It's almost like a darker silver, kind of slate gray with a shimmer. So beautiful. So if it was in your price range to get Orca, I really like that one. I know sometimes Beam Paint switches up what paints they offer as well, so hopefully they'll kind of stick to these ones just for a number of years, because these are really wonderful. I also use a lot of white, so some watercolorists don't use white at all. They don't like white because it takes away that transparency of the watercolor, that effect, but I love using white in my work. I love that opaque look. And when I mixed the white with, say, the strawberry red, the most beautiful pink occurred. So I just love that pink. So that would be an example of my recommendation. If you were to invest in a few paint stones, that would give you a pretty full, beautiful palette to work with. And of course, if you mixed all of these, you could create more of a muddy neutral color, which is really beneficial. So if you're just to combine all of them, you can create your own kind of mud. And that's really helpful to put in your work when you're trying to make those brights stand out. So I'm just going to draw a little line and show you. I'm just going to push this up a bit. The second recommendation would be the red. I would choose, instead of strawberry red, I would go with cherry magenta. And so the cherry magenta is just such a gorgeous color on its own. And I would go with poplar yellow, because that I think is the best primary yellow. It's not too dark, it's not too light. So that's sort of a definite. And then instead of Great Ocean, I feel like the second choice, you know, if you didn't love those first three primaries, it would be, this blue is much more like a cerulean blue, or just a lighter, brighter, more of almost like a neon blue. It's called Almost Night. And so I've put those on this palette, and I just had those out of order, but you can see the cherry magenta, the fall poplar yellow, and then the Almost Night. and I added white, and then I made more of mud with all of the colors. And when I had mixed them, just as I had done above, so when I combined the cherry magenta and the fall poplar yellow, I got this beautiful orange, very similar to the one above. And then when I combined the, let's just think, again, this is not my strong suit, but I'm hoping this will help some of you if you're going to invest in watercolor paints, you know, from a really, really great family-run company, which is good for the environment, and, you know, supporting a Canadian Indigenous-owned, kind of woman-owned business. I felt like this is just an important video to do. So the green, this was the green that I got when I had combined the fall poplar yellow and the almost night. Much, much brighter and less of a leaf green. And then I really love pinks. So when I added white to that cherry magenta, this was the pink I got. It was a little bit more of a purplish pink. I'll just add a bit more white because maybe I was heavy-handed there. No, it still is a little bit more of a slanted towards more of a purplish pink than sort of a brighter pink. And when I combined the cherry magenta and the almost night, the purple I got was more of kind of a more traditional bluish purple, really, really beautiful color. And of course, your recipe of mixing is going to be different than mine. It is going to be different every time, depending on how much of each color you use, and it can be hard to do at equal parts. And that is sort of, that kind of summarizes my awesome swatch video. I'm going in my head right now. I'm like, I don't know about this video, you guys, but if it helps one person, that's great. So this, I'm just going to stop moving this around. But just to quickly review with you all, this first palette is strawberry red, and then fall poplar yellow, great ocean, and then of course the red and the yellow make this orange. The red and the blue make the purple, and the yellow and the blue make this green. I feel like my son and I have been going over this stuff with his in kindergarten. This is so funny. I have to relearn it. There's some really great swatch videos out there, by the way, so this is just mine on Beam Paints. I love this pink. This pink reminds me of that Kuretake pink that comes in the, I think it was the Art Nouveau set. So this is one of my favorite sets, those Kuretake paints. And that pink I've used so much of, and it reminds me a lot of that pink. So that's good to know. I will keep that in my back pocket. And then the second option, so if you're like me, sometimes you just like to buy pretty colors, you don't care about mixing. I feel like I probably would have leaned towards the second choice, which is the cherry magenta, again, the fall poplar yellow, and the almost night. And that is just because I love magenta. So both are equally beautiful, and it really depends what you're more likely to do with the paints. Are you likely to mix them, or, you know, are you just going to kind of use them straight from the paint stone? So if that is the case, oh, one thing I wanted to, yeah, no, I'm not going to go there yet. So if you just wanted to kind of buy beautiful paint stones, oh, I mean, that's so tricky as far as favorite colors. I really, really love this color. This is called Robin's Egg, and it very much is the color of a robin's egg, if you've ever seen a robin's egg. We had a little family of robins in the tree in our backyard last year. It was really, really beautiful having that little family in the tree. And I did see some broken eggshells sort of around our neighborhood, and I'd never seen a robin's egg, a broken robin's egg. And they're very beautiful. It's a very, very nice kind of light aqua color. So this is a color that probably won't disappoint if you like that, if that speaks to you. Again, I love pinks, so I probably would get either the strawberry red or the cherry magenta, probably the cherry magenta. And then as far as some of the shimmery colors they have, this one is called Wild Salmon, and it is the most beautiful color. I use it a lot in my work, so I'm just going to activate it here. And of course, my water is a bit muddied. So I'm just going to put it, it's kind of, I don't think the camera doesn't do it justice because it's so gorgeous. And I'm using very cheap paper, just Canson mixed media paper. But it's sort of like a pinkish, goldish, shimmery color. It's very, very beautiful. And what I'll do, I'm just gonna use the water from my water bottle. And the one last color that I would invest in if I was on a budget would be pumpkin spice. I really, really love this pumpkin spice. And if you're wondering what I'm holding, I've done videos on these paints before, but these are beeswaxed coated canvas stones where the watercolor goes right in the canvas. But check out that color. It is really, really beautiful. And again, the paper doesn't show the shimmer, and because it's so wet, it doesn't really do it justice, but it's so beautiful. So anyway, I just wanted to swatch out those two different options of the primary colors and just show you, and also for myself, just going back to grade school, remembering that, you know, you don't have to go out and buy every color. You know, mixing can be so fun, so creative, and you learn a lot in the process. So this was my just very basic way of mixing. And I'm going to move these out of the way so I don't smudge them. And I just wanted to mention, so these are water-soluble crayons. They are by a Swiss company called Caran, and I'll link that in the description. These are wonderful, and traveling with these would be a dream. You just slip them in your purse or your bag, suitcase, whatever, lunch kit, and you can turn these into watercolor. You can scribble right on your page, do a drawing, you know, whoops. But they're such high quality. And again, because I'm not using fresh water, it doesn't show up that well. But what you can also do, yeah, my water is quite muddied. I mean, you can mix them, but you can just take the end. I've seen people shave off these water-soluble crayons and put them in a dish. I mean, look at that. Absolutely beautiful. So just kind of remembering that, you know, if you're at your local art store and you're on a budget, you know, I know here in Calgary, you can buy these individually at the art store. And that's just a really great way of seeing if you like the product without making a big investment, because, you know, art supplies are expensive, and especially if you are choosing student grade or, you know, artist grade materials, it can be very expensive. So It doesn't have to be, but it can be. So I'm just gonna clean off my brush and move this work of art. No, just kidding. Just gonna move this aside. And, oh, I know. I wanna show you something I'm super excited about. Check out this wild pile of papers. So for those of you that had followed a video where I was doing some abstract acrylic paintings, you'll know that I was using a Stay Wet palette, and my Stay Wet palette got pretty crazy. All of the acrylic paints were moving into each other, and it was really time to change out the palette. I'm gonna see if I have it here, and oh, yes I do. So I was using this Masterson's Stay Wet palette, which really one of you brought to my attention on my channel in my comments. Thank you to whoever it was. You can make your own Stay Wet palette. I had purchased this well before I knew what I was doing painting. It was probably, you know, the second thing I had ever purchased when I wanted to start painting with acrylics. And I thought this is what I needed. You can see a whole bunch of the acrylic paint on the top of the lid, and it had this sponge on the bottom. And of course, this company, what you do is you purchase sheets, like replacement palette sheets, that are really good to kind of keep your paint wet. And then this sponge is what you wet to keep underneath. And of course you can seal, if you have a really tight container, you can seal them, and you can use these. I find I keep this palette, I'll use it for months before I swap it out. But somebody was bright enough to point out, oh, interesting. It does have a little bit of a smell. That's interesting. I used some Stay Wet palette paper, and I was using, I think this is a cloth. Maybe it's made, it's a, maybe, I don't know, it's cellulose. It will break down over time. It's like a biodegradable. Oh, interesting. My niece's name is Danica. Sorry. Okay, I'm distracted. But you can make your own Stay Wet palette by just finding, I still haven't found the right type of sponge or cloth to go in my container, but I have found you can use, you know, wax paper or parchment paper, baking paper, and I see that this acrylic paint is still wet, and this of course was a takeout container, and you can just make your own. Okay, but where I'm going with this, and you know, I don't know, maybe some of you have better recommendations, because I feel like this had a little bit of a smell, and I used a clean sponge cloth. I don't know what that's about, but we'll figure that out. But I didn't know what to do with all the paint that was kind of smushing together, and it really needed to be changed out before it all dried and it became not usable. So I grabbed a whole bunch of these. Oh, here's the palette. Isn't that beautiful? So this is that palette paper, and this is what I had used to basically blot down the excess paint, and I just kept blotting it down, and then I would fold the sheets together, blot them onto themselves, and look at all of these gorgeous papers that I made. This was a paper, I was cleaning my brush and I had a lot of reds and pinks, but you can just see some of the palette on there. This was where I was cleaning my brush with a lot of greens, and then I put down, again, that palette. I had so much paint. Check out some of the textures in here. So I just was so excited to show you. This I will use for collage at some point. It's just really, really beautiful in color, and it's very interesting. So I'm gonna collage that into some art at some point in time. I also kind of wanted to make this into a journal because I don't want to paint over this beautiful textured paint. I know I'm moving that around a lot. Isn't that just so beautiful? So I just wanted to share that with you. If you have a palette that's going to dry out and you're trying to think of how to use the paint before it dries out, I just love being able to smush it onto a piece of paper, and it inspires me to go back to it. Cutting these out, you could get some beautiful petals for flowers, some really, really gorgeous leaf shapes, butterflies. The possibilities are endless. And I think what I'm going to do is go to a book that's been inspiring me just before I finish up this video. This is called Janine's Art, Birds in Watercolor, Collage, and Ink. And it's by the artist Janine D. Latkiss. Latkiss, I think the Z is silent, I'm not sure. And I can link this book in my... I'm just going to lift you up a little bit here. I've really been wanting to learn how to paint birds other than my very chubby watercolor birds, which you'll see in some of my work. And this book really just has so much inspiration in it. And sometimes, you know, there's books that are keepers, and I will keep this book a long time because I will go back to it and just find something new each time. And you know, that uppercase magazine that I was showing you, I believe Janine's art was also just featured in that. Or it could have been What Women Create. I think it might have been the magazine called What Women Create. I'll have to check, but her work is really, really stunning. I love the way she stores her inks in that beautiful turquoise wall hanger. There's so many beautiful photos of Mother Nature and different birds, beautiful photos of like this bird on a cactus. And it sort of talks about her background and where her inspiration comes from. But I just feel like it's so full of inspiring tips and tricks, and it's just a very beautiful book, you know, to have as a creative if you just like to flip through this kind of thing to get ideas. There's a collage using an old map, which is really neat. I love the black and white with the colorful background. Oh, and just like look at these pages. This is really, really stunning. You can see a lot of her mark making, the very fine details in the bird. She has this whole chapter about drawing with ink, using paint chips from the hardware store. Isn't that neat to draw on? I find those really inspiring. And she was using, I think, white acrylic ink there. So there's few books that I would go back to year after year, but this is one of them. This I find super inspiring. I love how she just uses white watercolor paper, and then this, I forget the brand. I can see the W. I think it's called FW acrylic ink, but using an ink pen and the dropper and just getting that really beautiful red on the white. Like, this is just amazing. All the details. I'm not sure I have that. Sometimes I'm not sure what I was bookmarking, but I obviously really like something. I could bookmark the whole book because it's all amazing. So I just wanted to share that. So again, that was Janine Latkis, and it's called Birds in Watercolor, Collage, and Ink, a field guide to art techniques and observing in the wild. So I hope this video inspired you. In my head right now, I was like, I don't know if that was the most inspirational video, but I'm just so grateful for all the support. You have all been amazing. And if you have something, if you want to request, you know, a certain topic, or if there's something I can help you with, please don't hesitate to ask. I definitely would consider it. I know somebody had just reached out to me on my Instagram and asked how I got the neon into this watercolor painting, and I just wanted to show you all that I used jelly rolls. So jelly roll pens by Sakura, and I can link these in the description. And whoops, something always goes overboard every video. It probably wouldn't be a good video if something didn't go overboard, so there you go. So these are called Jelly Roll Moonlight number 10 pens by Sakura, and that is how I got that bright orange outlining the flower and the neon. I love brights. You can see I used the neon green down there. So thank you to whoever was asking about that, and yeah, I look forward to seeing you guys soon. Take care.